Hello, fourth graders, or whatever. Anyway, I'm in the library today because this is the only place that I can be to read right now. We're doing chapter 9, which is called Eddie Tacker Was a Bully. And here's the picture that starts it off. Eddie Tacker was so mean he'd pee on a puppy. I know, because he did it to mine. Tam was just a tiny ball of collie when Eddie opened up his corduroys and did it. And that was something that even Soup wouldn't do. That was the difference between Soup and Eddie Tacker. Eddie was a bully, but not Soup, even though a number of his suggestions were made with convincing force. As for Eddie, he made a hobby out of being mean. I hated him so much I even knew his walk, for I could tell when he was coming up behind me with a dandy plan to jump on my back and ride my face into the mud or make me eat some. To make matters worse, Eddie wasn't as tall as I was, just a whole lot wider. I can't honestly say that Eddie was tougher than I was, but his best weapon was that I thought he was tougher. Of Eddie Tacker, I was scared skinny. Even in my dreams, he invaded peaceful settings and disrupted fantasy. He fed me to a dragon or threw me in a moat. But when I wasn't dreaming about Eddie Tacker, I was lying awake and thinking the sweetest thought a kid could ever think: how I'd get even. Little did I know how soon my next meeting with Eddie would be. Morning came, and with hardly a wink of sleep, I was fresh with deviltry. It was the day after Eddie tinkled on Tam, and the air was ripe with revenge. I was upstairs in the schoolhouse balcony, and a boy named Carl Sprague was below. At the water bobbler, I took a great gulp of cold water and let it loose, cascading toward Carl's head. But the water landed on Eddie. I laughed. Eddie did not. It wasn't the sort of thing that Eddie would take in the fun-loving spirit in which it was intended. Nor was it in Eddie's nature to pass it off as an innocent accident and laugh the whole matter off. Not this Eddie. His only thought was punishment for the offender who whetted his dignity. Eddie's one thought, as his wet, evil face looked up to the balcony, was to avenge the wrong. But not a score evening that was equal in severity to the offense. He would be dry in 5 minutes, yet already forming in his face was a resolute promise to make me sting for a week. The worst part of Eddie's plan was to let me know in advance what my horror would be as soon as afternoon recess rolled around. On the wall above Miss Kelly's desk, our schoolroom clock ticked slowly. Its pendulum was a great silver disc that swung to and fro inside its keyhole-shaped case. Every tick of that clock brought Eddie closer. Miss Kelly finally rang the bell, a signal for us to line up 2 by 2 to be dismissed for the day. Behind me, in line, as we marched down the stairs, stepping on my heels as often as he could, was the bully himself. With each step, he whispered his bloody intentions. Not loud enough for Miss Kelly's superb hearing to detect, but with enough carry to be picked up by surrounding classmates of both sexes, including Norma Jean Bissell. Several of my classmates tittered away as if the whole business of my drubbing by Eddie was one heck of a joke. So drubbing means like getting beaten up, pounding. A grapevine whisper took up the call, spreading the news of the afternoon's entertainment. All planned to watch, and probably even Norma Jean. I didn't care if the other girls saw, but why, of all people, would it have to be Norma Jean Bissell? Norma Jean and I rarely spoke. What we shared together was a silent courtship. There wasn't even a carry her books home from school arrangement, as we lived in opposite directions from the red brick building. Our only overt act of mutual recognition came once a day as we sang My Country 'Tis of Thee. As a class, we rose and stood by our seats, belting it out stanza by stanza, all four. When we got to the line, Thy name I love, I would look with longing at Norma Jean Bissell, and she at me. I thought of Norma Jean as my sweetheart, the girl to whom I would one day plight my troth. What she thought of me I never discovered, as we never exchanged words, only glances. It was strictly a romance of song, like Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy. But on this ill day, another Eddie was in the picture. whose full intention was to back me up against the schoolhouse and give me a wailing in front of Norma Jean and everybody. To make matters worse, Miss Kelly picked this day of all days to keep soup after school. Because, of course, if uh, soup is there, then soup would probably bail him out because they're friends. Um, Out we marched like a row of ducks, 2 by 2, all 20 of us, down the slate walk almost to the road. That was where I broke ranks and really turned it on. Never had I run so fast. Neither had Eddie Tacker, who was a step or two behind. His footsteps and his threats mounted in my ears. And that was when I saw Mama, waiting to drag me to the dry goods store. My earlier distress had made me forget that she was meeting me today, or meeting me to go buy a new pair of knickers. So knickers are pants. My old ones had a rip at each knee. Boy, was she a welcome sight. Eddie, however, did not know that the lady was my mother. I got to Mama just as Eddie got to me. Turning to face him, I laced him in the chops with the hardest right ever thrown. So they're running, and right as Rob gets to his mom, he turns around and just punches Eddie right in the face. Eddie crashed like a tree into me and both of us into Mama. It was a mess. Almost all of us were crying. A hand had blood on it. So did one nose and one dress. My knuckles were swelling up like a baseball glove, and so was Eddie's face. 5 minutes later, the three of us sat in the pharmacy and ate ice cream. Eddie and I shook hands. I took note that he put a bit more pressure on my swollen hand than the sincerity of a hand clasp demanded. Eddie went his swollen way home. Mama then snaked me to the dry goods store. With his tape, old Mr. Cottingham, who spoke in fluent grunts, measured my girth and pointed to a pile of knickerbockers on a wooden table. He told me to take off the ones I wore. I was ready to balk at this, but one look at Mama said she'd had worked up a head of steam. I thought it best to skin down. So at this time in the store, if you're buying new pants, especially if you're like a little kid, you didn't get to go into like a changing room or anything like that. You just went over to where they had pants and took off yours and put on the other, and put on pants to try on right there. Let's see. The first pair of knickers was a perfect fit, and I said so, but Mama thought they looked a bit pinched. Whatever that is. Off they came. On went a bigger pair and a scratchier pair, too baggy. In those I would be run down by a lame turtle. But helpful old Cottingham said I'd grow into them. A third pair proved baggier and itchier than the second. I hated them and said so, and naturally Mama and Mr. Cottingham thought they were ideal. Just to make sure my new knickerbockers were totally without fit or comfort, they had me climb up and stand on a table. They had me turn around so much you'd think that's all I'd ever get to do. Stand on a table and rotate. Mama still wasn't satisfied. There were at least another 6 pairs in my size to try on, so she told me to take them off. So I did, and I was standing on the table in my underthings while Mr. Cottingham jerked another sample of his baggiest burlap from the bottom of the pile. I looked over their heads, and who did I see coming into the store with her mother? Norma Jean Bissell. That's who. They both looked at me, and I could have perished. Yanking the baggiest and scratchiest pair up over my hips, I announced how fine they fitted and how heavenly they felt, as they were several sizes too big to grow into. I couldn't feel a thing from my belt to my calf where they buckled. It was decided I was to wear my new knickers home. The old pair got wrapped and the new ones paid for. We started to leave the store, parading right between Mrs. Bissell and her daughter. Norma Jean pretended that she didn't see me. I pretended too. We walked all the way home to our farm. It felt like I was wading through the air. Every step a pin stuck and restuck into my backside, but at least I was wearing my new knickers, and if I grew a lot every year and lived to be 103, they might actually fit one day. But this was a small indignity, for on this day I could hardly wait to tell Soup how I had whacked Eddie Tacker and made him bleed. All right, that is the end of that chapter. We have one more chapter, chapter 10, coming up, which is shoes. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.